Hey everybody. So tonight's gonna be a little different. It's just go away, click stop, whatever if you don't want to deal with anything political because this is political. It's not. I don't think it's too terribly biased. Well, okay, it's got a little bias in it. I'll admit, but it's real, right? It's pretty neutral. It just is what it is. Maybe there's a little bit of my personal feelings about things in here, but for the most part, it's just a real revelation in something that a lot of people have been concerned about and wondering about. So I figure I'm going to use the voice I have. I'm going to use the megaphone I have to share my personal experience with the Affordable Health Care Act. What many of you insist on calling Obamacare, but it's the ACA. And so I've written something. I'm just going to share what I've written to cover this and let people know about this. This will take place of tonight's Big Arch vlog, which I mean I'm behind on anyway. Apologies, but this is an important thing. Very important, I think, for a lot of people. So, Sean's Healthcare Quest Part 1. I've decided to blog my personal story of trying to gain access to reasonable healthcare as legitimately as possible so that all of you can see it up close and know how it's affecting someone you actually know. Now, please share as you will. Feel free to comment. If you're going to go all nut job on my comment section, though, whatever. I'm not even going to bother taking the time to excise you, but I don't really want to deal with it because this is real life. This is not all about which banner you want to wave and claim that they care about you. So I filed on healthcare.gov, and my status has been pending for a while, weeks now. Meanwhile, I did my due diligence, and I researched fully what it means for Alabama to, quote, not be part of the exchange, end quote. That's a misnomer kind of thing, by the way. It's more clear below, or later, I should say. The foundations of the ACA were predicated on the idea that a certain class of folks, the below poverty line people like myself, would have access to Medicaid. This was to be universal. The Fed was to subsidize state-administered Medicaid for all the new folks added to those rolls at a rate of 100%, 100% for 3 years. So when you hear our states couldn't afford it, 100%. Well, after that, the subsidies would continue at 90% federal subsidies. Still, states were weak. We can't afford the increase in the bill. What? 3 years of free? And then 10% after that. You've got some bad budgeting going on. Okay, that's some editorializing. Okay. So this is how I'm supposed to get health care, access. In Alabama, until such time as my income level rose above the poverty line. After that, I would participate in the nationwide exchanges to acquire health care insurance that I could afford, possibly aided by tax credits, until such time as I might finally start making some real money off of what I'm doing. It's important to understand that the entire structure is layered by design from the very beginning. Everyone below a certain level was going to be covered by expanded Medicaid. Everyone at or slightly above the really crappy level would be, getting subsidized health insurance with tax credits and what have you. And then everyone else above the, oh my God, your income level sucks, would get health insurance, which was made much more affordable through the very competitive exchanges, and everyone would enjoy undeniable coverage due to pre-existing conditions and all these other cool things that the ACA promised. And so basically, if you were at the high level, you continue to stick with the stuff you got from work, or you've got a really good policy through the exchanges that was, again, because it was forced into actual competition. Competition is supposed to be good according to the, meat-eating, money is good people, right? Competition. What's the deal? Why are you fighting the idea of competition? I don't get it. But that was somehow wrong. So anyway, thanks to the fiddling and futzing that opponents of the ACA forced into the mix, and especially thanks to the Supreme Court ruling that the Medicaid expansion was optional, a key component that was supposed to help those of us in the most desperate need doesn't even exist in states like Alabama and Georgia, where, quite frankly, the greed principle rules with a gold fist. So this morning, I called the extremely helpful folks at 1-800-318-2596. Yeah, that's the one everybody makes fun of. It actually spells out 1-800-FU. It's whatever, just an accident, but it's funny. So I called him. I got a very nice man on the other end of the phone who ultimately felt horrible about how much he could not help me in any meaningful way. He wanted to. He really, really did. They're motivated at the central healthcare.gov offices. Unfortunately, they are just as stymied as everyone else by the huge pink elephant in the room. The huge pink elephant that lets the state screw over their poorest citizens with no rationality whatsoever. The huge pink elephant that the vociferous opponents of the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare if you must, don't want to admit is their making and don't want you to pay any attention to. Oh, we're trying to protect America from this. Don't pay attention to the fact that we're screwing the poorest people to have no access to health. It's just, no, they don't want you to see that. I am riding that huge pink elephant now, friends, and I'm using my megaphone to share my very personal story. I'm an independent entrepreneur, if you will, the very champion of capitalism that my usual conservative debate partners uphold as the savior of us all. I should point out that I don't really buy into that, but I do think folks like me are a part of the solution in making things better for as part of an integrated approach that mixes capitalism and socialism, but that's another blog for another time. I'm struggling to build a company up, Evil Beagle Games, and such not only that I will make a living wage, but also provide revenue opportunities for other creators. I get by in life thanks to the love and support of family and friends, and much of what I make goes back into the company to continue building it. This is how businesses are built, as anyone with any experience in such matters will attest. You take everything that you don't absolutely have to have and you shove it back in the company. You just scrimp and you do, right? So currently my revenue cycle is such that I survive well below the poverty. I mean, this is poverty, $11,000 something for a single white male like myself. I'm really down underneath that line. So that's the place where the ACA was designed to let me get some basic health care thanks to expanding the existing and effective system, that is Medicaid. This approach makes sense. We could afford million-dollar one-use bombs. We could afford to expand healthcare coverage to the bottom fraction of the citizenry while we expand options for everyone else. I want to remind you, it was a layered approach. Up the top, everybody got money. They continue with what they have. They use the competition of the exchange to get it. And anybody up here who had pre-existing conditions, they're protected by ACA because now they can get insurance and not have it canceled on them. Everybody I'm at the poverty level up to about 400% of poverty level. They don't get anything else but is subsidized, right? They get access, but they get access to subsidies. They get access to tax credits. They get access to, we're going to help you pay for this. Everyone below the poverty level, we're like, we didn't build a system for you because Medicaid expansion, that's what covers you. That's built in, so we're good, right? You guys are totally covered, except you're not because the Supreme Court said states can go optional on this. And if you live in a state that says, we didn't want any of this, so we'll screw the bottom part because we're just going to take whatever we can get and be all, this is the only thing we can say no to. We're sort of saying no. So they're saying no to everyone who is less than poverty level, the worst possible level. They're the ones who get nothing. This is Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, Maine, Wisconsin, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Alaska, Florida, apparently. Tennessee's like right on the edge. There's quite a few others. All of these states utterly refused to participate in the expansion of Medicaid, which would give people like myself access to health care. The Supreme Court allowed this to happen, gutting a key component of the system that was supposed to make access universal. Because of that judicial ruling, the wealthy conservatives who run my state deny me and many thousands of others at the bottom rungs any chance to see doctors and get medicines without either bankrupting ourselves or leeching off an emergency services system already burdened to the breaking point. So back to the quest. I called the 1-800 number and was officially informed that I should A, wait and see what the status of my exchange application comes back with, which we pretty much all felt was probably going to be crap. B, be prepared to compile that response with other information so that I could make a case for not paying a penalty when that time comes. No, we're not talking about me getting care. We're just talking about what I need to do to avoid penalties, which at least they said was virtually impossible. I was going to have to pay any because, well, they recognize just how screwed I am. And C, contact the local navigator office here in Alabama. See, navigators are folks contracted, I'm pretty sure by the federal government, to help folks within a state discover all of their options. In Alabama, the phone number is 256-536-4700. So tomorrow, because things went on too long today with this other stuff, I'm going to call. So the nice person and supervisor both wish me very well, and their greatest hope is that Alabama and other states will have a change of heart and relent on the Medicaid issue. Let me reiterate that for emphasis. The folks running the Affordable Health Care Act system realize that the only hope millions of us who live below the poverty line have for access to health care is for the Grinch's heart to grow. Yeah. So I will call my Alabama navigator friend tomorrow and continue the quest. Stay tuned. But there's a PS. The calculator that the site points to, I think it's Humanus or something. I don't know. It's some big thing. They push you to get an estimate of coverage, and it comes back to me with an annual amount that exceeds my projected income. Let me be clear on this. It comes back with an amount that I will pay annually based on the exchange that exceeds my total income. I would have to pay every penny I make and borrow money from someone else to pay for health insurance, which would be moot because I'd starve to death or die of exposure. So the quest will go on, and should be interesting to find out what happens next, right? Tomorrow.